Do you ever realize that when you experience one of your best victories, the next day seems to be like, why am I alive? We've had experiences like that. We've come out of a great church service, a great worship service. We've heard a great word. We're about ready to apply it to our heart. And then Monday morning comes, and you're like, no way, this is awful. I don't even want to get out of bed. And I believe that the enemy uses these circumstances in our life to try to depress us and get us discouraged about life. It's just awful. I mean, he's just such a loser. So the Israelites come across the Jordan. They see a miracle happen. God parted the water again. He did it with Moses, and then he does it again with Joshua. How amazing was that? But what they come up against as soon as they cross the Jordan is a huge, massive city called Jericho. Now, Jericho was in the way of them getting to the promised land. So at this point, when they came up to Jericho, they crossed the Jordan, and then bam, an obstacle, another one. They must have been thinking, what is God doing? He just did an awesome miracle. Part of the Jordan, we came across on dry ground, and now this. So at this point, the Israelites had two options. They could either flee or face it. Now, if they flee, they're back into the wilderness. But if they face this obstacle in front of them, then they're going to see God work in a mighty, mighty way. Here's a little something you might want to consider about Jericho. It was considered the greatest walled fortress of all time. Say all time. The greatest walled fortress of all time. And a military stronghold. Unparalleled in those days, with walls so thick that the chariots could pass right over them. And from a human perspective, conquering this city just didn't look like it was going to happen. No way, no how. There's no way that we can get past this city. It's unparalleled. It's a mighty, mighty fortress. And that leads me to point one, if you're taking notes. When we follow after God, we will run into obstacles. So when I was studying for this and writing this message this morning, I was like, wow, this story is so awesome because I ran into a huge wall. And I'm sure that there are lots of you here today that have many, many obstacles. Maybe it's a sin in your life. Maybe it is a marriage that is breaking down. Maybe it is a financial situation or burden. What is your Jericho today? What is standing in your way? What obstacles are there? What is God asking you to do with those obstacles? Wait till you see what God does with the Israelites in Jericho. It's crazy. Good stuff. Before we get there, though, I want to share a quote with you. This quote has been working on my heart for 2 weeks. Thanks to my wife, she brought this quote to my attention. And it says this, you can write this down. Change and transition are rarely comfortable, but always necessary in moving forward. Change and transition are rarely comfortable, but always necessary in moving forward. The Israelites were up against a massive city. And at that point, they had to change their thinking. Do we want to be wilderness people again, or do we want to take hold of the promise that God has for us and do this thing? So transition and change are really hard sometimes, but they are necessary in moving forward.